What do you do if you re-faced with a beautiful, mysterious woman who clearly does not mind flirting? But she has a husband. Or does she? Travis was not sure until one day he found himself at her door and saw her wrapped in nothing but a towel. But it all went wrong when a rumbling sound came from the bathroom. He rushed inside to help, but before he could even realize the situation, his world was plunged into darkness by the impact of a fist that landed squarely in his face. What was he to her? A casual acquaintance or something more? What if this was a trap? Or a game he did not even realize he'd gotten himself into? The story began a few days ago. Travis had just moved into a new apartment. He was enjoying the quiet of the nearly empty building, excited at the prospect of many months of peace and solitude. His peace of mind was short-lived, however. A few days later, he noticed a young couple pulling into the common driveway. The man, with his hasty, jerky movements, would rush to the bus stop every morning and return in the late evenings, tiredly rolling his traveling bag behind him. The girl, on the other hand, often flashed by with grocery bags in her hands. One evening, facing a creative crisis and wanting to clear his head a little, Travis decided to go for a walk. His work was stalled, his thoughts were muddled, and he desperately needed fresh air, perhaps even a cigarette, to dispel his heavy thoughts. After walking a few blocks, he was on his way home when he saw her. She was standing at the front door, trying to manage the 3 bulky boxes stacked haphazardly by the door. "Good evening." Travis threw her a friendly glance. "Need a hand?" The girl turned around, a note of fatigue in her voice. "If it's not too much trouble, the courier just left them here and walked away." Weird, to be honest. Travis eyed the boxes, estimating their weight. Must be heavy, he thought. She was quick to reassure him, however. "Do not worry, it's just yarn. Supplies for knitting." Being polite, he effortlessly picked up the boxes and carried them upstairs. Without much effort, Travis carried the boxes up to the second floor and placed them by the door. The girl smiled gratefully, catching her breath. "Thank you so much." Her voice sounded sincere, warmth enveloping the moment. "It's nothing," Travis replied with a slight smile, waving away her gratitude. "But maybe you could knit me a beret as compensation." She laughed merrily. "Get in line." She winked. "The orders are piling up like a snowball. Fall is upon us. Scarves and cardigans are in vogue. I did not buy so much yarn for nothing." "So you in high demand," Travis grinned. "But I'm not going to let you go," she added slyly, her eyes sparkling with playful fire. "Why do not you try my cookies first and tell me how you like them?" Before he could object, the girl deftly grabbed his arm and pulled him inside. A few moments later, Travis had a steaming glass of tea and a plate of cookies in front of him. She sat down across from him, palm resting on her chin. "Help yourself," she insisted with a smile. "And while you retasting, tell me what's going on in the world." "What do you mean?" he wondered. "I hardly ever leave the house except for groceries. All day is spent knitting orders, so I'm completely unaware of what's going on around me." "Enlighten me." Travis grinned. "You in the right place. I'm a homebody myself. I work as a computer programmer, so I spend all day at the computer." "Well, you say not get bored in this house," she said, pushing a plate toward him. Travis reached for a cookie, smiling. "Do you think your husband would mind if I made myself comfortable?" he asked with playful curiosity. "You do not have to worry about him," she said. "Why do not you tell me if the dough is too sweet?" Travis took a bite, savoring the soft, warm flavor. "No, it's perfect," he answered after a short pause. "Then I'll have to eat the whole thing," she winked. "Should not you save some for your husband?" he asked, feeling his curiosity reawakening. She shrugged and smiled. "Oh, he has had enough. Do not worry about him." She just waved her hand away, letting him know not to worry, and then, changing her tone, asked, "So tell me, how long have you lived here? Do you know any of the neighbors? What do you usually do in the evenings?" Travis honestly admitted that in the 2 months he'd been in the house, he'd hardly spoken to anyone. "So you do not have anyone you spend your weekends with?" she clarified, her voice sounding playful. He shrugged. Not really. I sleep in, clean, watch movies. In general, nothing interesting. The girl's eyes flashed with curiosity. Oh, I'd love to see a good movie, she said dreamily. Does not your husband take you to the movies? Travis asked, mentioning the man for the third time. Julia grinned. A movie is not just a room with a screen, it's more of a state of mind, do not you think? She answered cryptically. Then her voice softened, a warm invitation. Since we both homebuddies, you can drop by any time. Something in her words tugged at Travis, reinforcing his suspicion that the couple was not so simple. They crossed paths a few more times since that meeting, either in the yard or at the front door of the house. Each time, her gaze was somehow peculiar, strangely intense, causing him a slight unease. What if he's not her husband? Travis thought one night. He remembered that he'd never once seen them holding hands or showing each other any affectionate signs of attention. Maybe they were just brother and sister? In that case, if she was single, why not take the opportunity to visit her for a cup of coffee? Or find an excuse, like borrowing a lighter? The next morning, he noticed Julia entering her apartment. Without thinking, he hurried down the stairs and pressed the doorbell. Good morning. She smiled as she opened the door. Friendliness flashed in her eyes. Come in. You said you could come in any time. I thought now would be a good time, he said with a slight smile. When he entered the kitchen, Travis stared at Julia. She was in cozy, homemade pajamas that emphasized her figure, and it did not take much imagination to realize that there was almost nothing on underneath. This casualness in her clothes seemed quite deliberate to him, and maybe he just wanted to believe it. They sat down at the table with cups of hot coffee, chatting leisurely. The conversation flowed smoothly from one topic to another until Travis, gathering his courage, decided to take a chance. Do you have a brother? He asked, trying to sound indifferent. Julia laughed. A brother? No, no brothers. That answer put an end to his speculation. So that man really was her husband. The realization hit him suddenly, leaving him at a loss. The realization that Julia was living with someone cooled his ardor slightly, but not enough to make him pull away. Their communication continued to develop, chance encounters, cups of coffee, smiles full of hidden meanings. They had clearly crossed the line of mere acquaintance by now, and now Travis thought it was time to take their relationship to the next level. Yes, she is married, or at least living with another man. But when you think about it, she dresses like that in front of him, never talks about her husband, and her smile says more than words can say. How could he turn down such an opportunity? Maybe their marriage is crumbling, or maybe her husband has someone on the side too, or maybe she just has nowhere else to go. All sorts of excuses were born in his head to keep him wanting to move on. And soon the perfect moment appeared. It was Friday night, the end of an exhausting work week. Travis felt completely exhausted. He had no energy for code or deadlines. He needed a break. A cup of coffee in Julia's company seemed the best option. With that thought in mind, he went to her door and rang the bell. There was no answer for a while, and he was about to leave when he heard the click of the lock. The door opened slowly, and Julia stood before him, wrapped only in a towel. Come in, she said, nodding toward the kitchen. There are fresh apples on the table, and I'll be right back, she said over her shoulder and disappeared into the bathroom, leaving Travis standing at the door. He froze in place, still digesting what he'd seen. Just before he could step inside and close the door behind him, there was a rumble. Then a scream, followed by a thud, as if something heavy had fallen to the floor. Travis's heart raced faster, and he rushed toward the bathroom. Julia was lying on the cold tile, not showing any signs of life. Julia! Julia! There was panic in his voice. He knelt beside her, about to shake her by the shoulders, but his eyes caught the important detail. The towel she'd been wrapped in was now lying on the floor. She was completely naked. Damn! Am I getting too old already? A detached thought flashed through his mind as he tried to focus on the situation. Travis reached out to cover her with a towel, but hesitated for a moment. His fingers hovered in the air and his gaze lingered involuntarily on her body. She looked stunning even now as she lay unconscious on the floor. There was something hypnotic about her beauty, something given to her by nature. Time seemed to slow down. For a few long seconds his mind was torn between instinct and common sense. Finally, the inner voice prevailed, and he hurriedly threw the towel over her body. Shifting into action mode, Travis began gently patting her cheeks, trying to bring her to her senses. When that did not work, he stood up, intending to splash cold water on her face. But as soon as he moved, there was a sudden sound behind him. He barely had time to turn his head before a vague shadow flashed before his eyes. And, bang! A powerful blow came straight to his face. Deafening pain exploded across his skull. The world went black, and Travis collapsed to the floor. In a desperate attempt to grab hold of something, he jerked his hand at random, but his fingers slipped on the shelf, unable to find a foothold. The darkness covered him completely. His head ached with sharp, unbearable pain. Travis struggled to lift his hand and felt the lump on his forehead. Carefully running his fingers over his face, he soon realized that a fresh bruise was blossoming under his eye. Great, this day just keeps getting better and better, he thought with bitter irony, wrinkling his nose as the events of the last few minutes began to surface in his mind. Fortunately, working remotely had its advantages. He could sit at the computer with a black eye, or no clothes at all, not that it mattered right now. "Do you really think I had time to think about anything?" came a voice interrupting his thoughts. Travis looked up and now clearly recognized the man he recognized as his neighbor, Victor. "I just forgot a folder with documents. I came back, and what do I see?" Victor waved his hand as if recreating the scene. The door wide open, my naked wife unconscious on the floor, and some man standing over her. He mimicked Travis's scream. "Julia! Julia!" he falsely exclaimed. "Tell me, do you really think I had the time, the desire, or even the slightest instinct to deal with the situation?" "No, I hit first and then I started thinking." Travis slowly realized that the threat had passed. Cautiously rising, he looked around. Julia was sitting at the kitchen table, now fully dressed. She held a bottle of champagne in her hands, pressing it to the back of her head, turning it occasionally in search of a colder spot. Without a word, she took another bottle from the table, filled with wine, and held it out to Travis. "Put it on," she said briefly. Grateful for some relief, Travis pressed the cool glass to his aching forehead. The cold soothed the throbbing pain that had spread through his head after the blow. I'm sorry," he finally said, breaking the long silence. Victor brushed it off like it was no big deal. "Forget it. She's bored alone. And when you come, she has someone to talk to. If she does not talk enough during the day, I do not even want to think about what's in store for me tonight." Travis nodded awkwardly, feeling a little lost, and headed for the exit. It was not until he reached the middle of the hallway that Travis realized he was still clutching the bottle of wine in his hand. Awkwardness washed over him from head to toe. He hesitated for a moment, then quickly returned, set the bottle by the door, and walked out without looking back. Several weeks passed. During that time, Travis began dating a charming young woman who, to his relief, was completely free of any commitment. Their relationship progressed, and soon the inevitable moment came when their paths crossed with Julia and Victor. To the surprise and delight of all four of them, the company quickly found something to talk about, and they began spending long, laughter and conversation-filled evenings together. Victor, a notorious storyteller, especially enjoyed the opportunity to recount his and Travis' first meeting over and over again. Julia would smile enigmatically when he got to the best part, but Travis would always look away and grin, rubbing his forehead as if reliving that unfortunate blow. "Let's just say," Victor said meaningfully, winking at the guests. "It was a meeting we not likely to ever forget, and that's where today's story ends. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed it, do not forget to like and comment. We'd love to discuss this story with you. See you in the next video."